So this morning I want to talk about your shadow self. I've been sitting trying to figure out what it was that I wanted to record, right? To open up and start, my podcast and what I was going to talk about. There's so many things I've already recorded that I wasn't ready, right? Or I felt all these different things, not ready, don't post, but today. So I'm gonna go back. It's been over a year at this point, a little over a year. And again, I'm talking about your shadow self, your dark self. And the question was just brought to me, brought to my spirit, or the conversation really, slash question. And it's in regards to shadow work and your dark shadow. And, we've been told that, in drinking or in different things, there's a demon, right? Or a dark entity that, that comes to you or that comes into you when you are drinking and things of that, that whole little, you know, that whole statement. But what if it's not a demon, but it's your darker self, your shadow self? And if you've done the shadow work, you know that that person is dark, right? That other part is dark, but it's not a demon. It's just the lower level of you. So if we believe that, how do we address that when we're doing the shadow work? So for me, I've been doing shadow work, Matt, for a long time. It feels like a long, for years at this point. And this last year, what I came across was so heavy, right, for self. But it took a alcohol, wasn't even alcohol filled. Actually, y'all, let me tell this story this way. It was the worst, but the coldest. Imagine, right? I'm not gonna drink this much today. I'm two is it, right? Because I have a high tolerance. So two is it. I'm two and I'm out. But I had some emotional stuff that was trigger tied, mom related stuff going on. And I'm coming home, and as I get home, right, I'm coming home, I'm talking about this trigger stuff. Now I'm triggered and I'm in a lower vibration, but man, it's lower. But my whole day was high. High as in people walking up to me asking me to pray for them. High, right? Should have noted, right? Perhaps. But anyway, as this particular night ends, I end up in a space in which I end up in my dark place. My shadow self shows, right? She gets triggered when I walk in the house, and then I I end up doing some irreparable damage to myself, literally. So now it's been a little over a year, and I have a permanent scar on my face that has taken a lot for me to learn and understand why this has happened. Wasn't about vanity or any of those things, but I needed to be reminded, right, of a couple of things. But we're, again, dark and shadow self. We're in this dark work. And as I'm sitting in this particular situation, in this incident, what happens is I realize that I'm sitting in a dark space. I'm outside and I'm still angry, right? And to still I'm still responding in anger. And as I do this, I damn near break my wrist. And I'm not joking, y'all. I'm trying to pick something up. I can't even pick it up. And it's so heavy. It's like this big metal thing. And I'm trying to snap it. And I literally just about snapped my wrist. And all of this is happening. And my husband and my son are like, yo, what the fuck? Oh, excuse me. And I'm thinking, Sashi, where are you? And as I'm sitting here in that space, I keep going. Like, I'm gonna do this. I'm doing this. And I'm sick of this. And I'm rah, rah, rah. I am enraged. And then I stop. And I realize the level of hurt. My face is leaking. My face is leaking. And I'm standing here just, and you know what I do? I'm gonna go put butterflies on it because, it is what it is. But I'm saying all of this to say that when I fast forward to life now, and I seen my aunt who I hadn't seen in a little bit, and I went through the first, 6 months at least of this scar on my face, covering my face, because, not because of ego, but because of shame. I'm someone that I believe I am a very beautiful person. I do get conversations and compliments and that kind of thing all the time. And not that that had anything to do with it. For me, it was, I knew people were going to notice this on my face. They were going to notice this new scar that is almost like a Mary J. Blige scar, right? Literally same spot, which was a whole nother interesting piece considering just the day before this happened, I wondered what it felt like for her to walk around with that scar on her face. So that's another space, right, of dark shadow. I have found myself in my life, Mary J. I would have considered that one of my alter egos, right, or one of my other persons. I was so, into her music, still am, right, like literally live by some Mary J. In some different instances of my life. Her songs would come out right when I was walking through it, right when I needed it, right? And so if I were to really look at that, I'm going to add that to this. And I know I'm talking a lot, but just bear with me. Excuse me. So when I see my aunt, she's sitting there talking to me and she says to me, "You burned your face?" And then I look at her and I go, I thought I told you about this incident. And then I slightly tell her about it again, and I guess I really didn't. I just talked around it about how I felt about it, but I didn't tell her what happened. So I tell her what happened, tell her what I did. And she said to me, "You know what, Nisa, you've been through a lot." And I told her what I thought people would think or say. And she said, "No, if we know you, we look at you, and we're wondering, who did that to her? What is that? What happened to her?" And then in my heart, from that question, all I can say is, I did it to myself. I did it to myself. My inability to speak what was bothering me, holding it in, sparing other people's feelings, right? Not wanting to, be this, that, or the third, not wanting to argue. I literally had about 6 things on my heart that ended up just coming out in aggression against myself, angry at myself for not loving myself. Damaged my face. Would appear unintentional, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe I was concerned. I went through a part of my life where I was always called the pretty cousin. I had cousins, older cousins, big cousins, as we call them, don't even know my name. I'm just always the pretty cousin, pretty little cousin. And I can remember feeling like, do you even know who I am? I'm only your pretty cousin. I'm your smart cousin, right? Do you even know who I am? Those are elements of my persona and elements of who the individual, but that's not who I am. Elements, yes. Who? No. But this takes me back to shadow work and what I did to myself, because I was doing and still doing the work, and I could not deal with what I was seeing even for self. And I'm sitting in this space. And so what I'm talking about now, right, is not only as we're going through the work to be cautious of what we say to ourselves and what we do to ourselves, but then be aware of the what and the why, right? So don't run from it. I couldn't run from what I did. My son actually said to me as I was trying to hide my face one day, he was like, "Mom, is it going anywhere? You hiding the scar on your face, is it going to leave? It's not going anywhere. It's part of who you are now." It's for my 22-year-old son. It's part of who you are now. So if we understand even that statement, the scar is part of who I am now. The healing is part of who I am now. What I walked through to get that scar is part of who I am now. But it's not who I am. It is part of who I am. Who are we in our dark, right, our shadow self? Who are we in our drunk moments? How, repeat after someone, he asked the question, how sexual are you in your darker self, right? How violent are you with your darker self? How self-derogatory are you, right, with your lower self? How self-sabotaging are you in that space? All of those things, I would say, would push you or push me towards continuing to do the shadow work so that I understand my darkness, right? Because it's not bad. It's just the part of me that I need to heal from. And when we finish the shadow work, if we ever do, right? If we ever do, understanding that it's not negative, it's simply healing. And I really hope and pray that something in this is going to benefit someone else. And again, I look at myself every day and I decide, do I want to cover this up today? Do I want to pull my hair back and just let it be? And I had a friend say, I don't trust anybody without scars. It means they haven't been through anything. He's like, I like the character. And I went, I don't know about liking the character, but I do understand, right? Because that is the question it would bring. Something like what my aunt said. Who did that? What happened to that person? So I get to unravel and finish unraveling what happened to that person. But I start with knowing that in that moment, during that time, in that work, I wasn't listening to myself. I wasn't speaking for myself in a productive way. I was speaking only when angered, which meant I wasn't speaking for my true self. So let's remember to speak from our truest self possible. And when we feel that we're not, tap back in, remembering that the shadow work is necessary and it's you healing your lower self. Be well until the next time.